Alright, well this should be a fun one. Let's go ahead and talk about doors and buttons. And we'll do so with a couple props, some function entities, and inputs, outputs, as well as triggers. So a few things to cover. Let's get started. Alright, we'll get our Noesis prefab room, as always. Zoom inside here, and let's place a few different doors that we can check out. There are a few different types of doors we can use in our Source games. The one that you're going to use the most is actually a prop rotating door, but we also have some function entity doors. So let's just take a look at three of the main types. The one you're going to use the most with our entity tool, go back to our entities, is simply a prop underscore door rotating. We can plop a rotating door there, and it's a fantastic looking prop red cube with, if you back up a bit, you see this circle within it, which basically means that there's some functionality there. So I'll enter to bring up our object properties for our rotating door, and in our world model we'll browse and find one of the door models which we can use. The standard door you'll use most of the time within Half-Life and some other games is props underscore C17 door 01 left. There's also some other doors, some gates, and these will basically all apply to this prop entity that we have here that actually is going to let the door open and close. But let's choose first off the door 00 or door 01 left. Double click, hit apply, and we'll pull it out of the ground here. Shrink our grid a little bit so we can get it closer to our floor. And one thing to notice, we didn't really talk about it too much when we talked about materials, but there's something called skins in materials, and skins are actually different skins or different textures within a group of materials. This prop skin actually has, I think, about 13 different skins. So if we change this to 1, apply, you'll actually see that changing in your level. And we have 13 different types of doors, just textures for doors as you go through the skins. Something really makes this prop door rotating with this world model, this 01A left, really useful because we have basically a range of different looking doors you can apply. Kind of a cool, just ominous looking door. So choose any skins. It's 0 to 13 or 0 to 12 maybe. And let's close that guy. And maybe we'll just add something that looks a little bit like a door frame around this door. So zoom in here and we'll create a little door frame for us. Use our browse for door. And we actually have this developer texture. It's a measured door we can apply. Let's hit that guy. Okay. And actually, let's take a closer look at what that measured door really is. So pull it out somewhere where we can see it, and we'll scoot it out a bit. Give it some depth, some height. Alright, somewhere in there. And we're going to line to the left and actually the bottom. If you align to the top, you'll notice your door is kind of, well, could be sunk somewhere in the ground. So let's just align it to the bottom, make sure that the bottom of our texture is the bottom of our brush, the bottom of the door. And there's this gray area above, which shows you, basically our brush is too big. But this is a good way to create brush-based doors, which we'll go over in just a second. So we'll scoot this guy, we'll shrink it down a little bit. There we go. You'll see that door frames are about 56 by 112 units. So we actually could come in here, shrink our grid, and get ourselves to 112. Let's align this a little better. There we go. 112. So now we have our door here. So let's move this aside for the time being. Let me just move it up there. And let's create a nice little frame like we were talking about around our prop rotating door. Block tool. Change whatever texture you like. I'm just going to keep this developer texture on there. And do some slight walls on either side of the rotating door. So make that solid. It's kind of misaligned. We could align it better if you want, but just for show here. So let me just select one of our other generic measure textures. Okay. So we'll just be able to see how our door is moving. Take a look at your rotating door, Alt-Enter to open up the Properties page. We talked about skins. We have the option to give our door a name. Let's call this door Door 1. Nice and easy. Apply that. You'll also notice some other key values that are really handy. And most of them are pretty self-explanatory. We can disable or enable shadows. Parent or slave. Basically, parenting objects means anything we parent to this object, or if we parent this object to another object, the child object, the object that is parented to another object, will move in relation to the parent object. So we could actually parent a button or something onto this door and have it rotate with the door, which maybe we'll try after we create our button in a moment. But for now, let's take a look at the rest of the prop rotating door. So we have some hardware types you can choose if it's kind of a lever or a push pad. The axis of the hinge, show the little dot here on the left side of our door. That is where our door is going to swing from. That's the axis point which it will swing. And that can actually be adjusted when you have your door selected. You'll see this little circle here and a line pointing at what direction that it's going to rotate from. So we could actually move that line and change the rotation of our door. But we got it right on the edge, which is obviously where you want a door to swing from, right on the hinges. So that's right. You can also adjust the speed, the distance that the door rotates. Right now it's going 90 degrees, so it'll just swing back out. If you want to swing further, you could increase the radius. Sounds for it opening, closing, unlocking, or locking. If it's a breakable door, we can set a damage before it will break. 0 is going to mean that door won't break. You'll just be able to open and close it. And we'll talk about outputs, inputs in a second. Take a look at the flags tab. And these are also fairly self-explanatory. You could start with your door open or start with your door locked, and it would need to be unlocked before anyone could use it. A silent door, a door that isn't going to cause any noise when it opens up. You can actually also have a door be silent only to NPCs. So the door will make noise to you. The player will hear it creaking or opening, but an NPC won't hear it. Typically, an enemy will hear you open a door unless you check the box telling it not to. And you can also hit the button to ignore a use command. So if someone clicks on it, you get that sound, but you could still use perhaps a button to open it. Really handy if you want to tell someone you can't just open this door with a knob. You need to use a keypad or something. Okay, so right now we have use. We'll close the door. So as soon as we open it with the use key, we can click the use key again, and the use key will close it. Cancel out of there. And let's just build a couple other doors with our dev texture that we've set up here. And we'll go ahead and test the difference between them. So we have our door brush here that we textured with our developer door texture. And if you take a closer look, you'll notice it actually gives you dimensions for the door, basically the doorway, and the inside of the door. We even have the position there of the knob if it were to be turned. So let's just create that door jam. We could go ahead in our top view here and just shift to clone that object. And let's just scale it down a little bit. Move it in here. So we want 48 by 108. 48. Center that up in our doorway. 108 units tall. Could align texture if you'd like. Left bottom. Might want to texture shift it just a little bit to get it all centered up. Texture shift it a bit up. I might need to, if you'd like. Alright. Now basically what we have is our doorway and door. Oh. Move our door into our doorway. Let's grab the door. Control click the doorway. Whoop, I don't want the level. And we'll carve. Alright. Now we can move our door out of our doorway. And you'll see we have our door frame there. And I need to realign our texture a little bit, but it's going to work just fine. Now we can actually change that texture to a generic texture. So let's just change that guy to something standard. Okay, bring our door back. And we don't need a door that's 8 units wide, so let's just shrink it down to something more like 2, and we'll put it in the middle of our doorway there. There. Okay. Now, still a brush. We need to tie it to an entity, and the entity that we're going to tie it to is a func underscore door. Simple enough. Apply. Now, before we check out any more of the functionality aspects, let's just grab both of these objects. Make sure you're not clicking the rest of your level. Shift drag to create a third doorway, identical to our second. Now we're going to change from this guy. We could either tie to the world and then tie it back to an entity, or just Alt-Enter to bring up its properties and change from a func door to a func door underscore rotating. You'll see those two options in the func door when you drop down list. So this will be a func door rotating, which will basically be very similar to our prop rotating door. Now let's save our scene. Save it as noesis underscore doors and triggers. And let's take a closer look at these two function doors and what their differences are. Select our first door, Alt-Enter, our func door. And a func door, unlike the other two doors on either side of it, is actually a sliding door, not a rotating door. Typically, most of them are going to look a lot like the other two. We have the speed of which the door is going to open, the damage force if it's closed. You can have it be able to be shot open by giving it a health value, sounds, again. Lip is actually the amount that the door is going to open, so how far it is going to go in or out. So 0 is your default. You can actually give it a little bit of a lip, a positive value, which will shrink the amount that it opens, or a negative value, as it says here. It's actually going to cause it to go even further from its default movement. The most important for us right now is going to be the origin and the move direction. So the origin, again, if you look in your 2D view, is this little circle right in the middle. And for a func door, a sliding door, the origin in the center should be great, should be perfect. That's there. It's going to slide back and open up to reveal. So the only thing that we're going to need to check on this door, I believe, if you go down to the move direction, the other big player for a sliding func door, is the direction of which it's gonna slide. So it's a little confusing when we're looking at it in our camera view here, because it looks like the direction is perfect. It's right on, but we're actually going to want in our coordinate system to adjust the door so it's not sliding this way like in our camera view, but in our top view, sliding down. So we'll adjust this guy right down to 270, apply. You might need to play with your directions, but you generally want to be on one of the axis points unless you have an angled door. Then you're going to want to match it. You can actually point it at something. If you click point at, you get this little crosshair, and you can select another entity or brush in your level to point that at. But I think right now we're good at 270, so we'll apply. And that's basically what we'll name this guy, door 2, since we named our other door. Door 2. Apply. Move this out of the way and click on our third door, our func door rotating, which we'll just name right now door 3. Basically the same parameters you have for your func door, all your sounds and speeds, etc., with the difference in basically the distance that it's going to rotate, since this is a rotating door. So very similar to we were looking at our prop door. Right now we're going to open 90 degrees, so it'll just open straight away. Again, we could open it less, so you actually couldn't get in, but you could see through it, maybe. Or open really wide, and we could adjust the speed or the force to make it actually do some damage as it opens. In our flags, take a look at our other flags as well, you can adjust if the door starts open, who can open it, if NPCs can, if it's locked or not, if it's silent, like we talked about, if it's going to open reverse, so towards us instead of away from us. And we got a couple other ones. Passable, if you can actually go through it. Toggle, will it toggle open and closed we'll use open. Right now we have touch open, so as soon as we walk up to the door, it's just going to open. We could also turn that off and turn use open, so we'd actually have to push the E key, the use key, to open the door, which is how our prop is going to work. But let's just keep touch so we can see the difference. Take a look at the flags for the other guy. Mostly the same. All right, I think we're actually ready to give this a shot. So we've got our player start and all that. We've adjusted the rotation. Oh, one thing. So we've adjusted the rotation, or I'm sorry, the position, the direction that our sliding door is going to open. If you look at our rotating door, you'll see we got the little function ball here right in the center of the door. And that's actually the origin point. Let's bring up properties page. Right now, if we were to run this map, our door would open at that origin point. So you'd kind of get like a rotating door effect. If you've been in a big hotel, you know, they got the rotating doors. You'd have to enter from either side. And this actually might not be a big enough space to do that. So we'll go down, and we have our origin. And that's how we're going to be able to move this ball. We could type numeric values. You know the coordinates you want it to be at. Easier way, typically, is going to be, again, to move this circle. So let's just click and drag that circle down, and we'll move it to one of our sides, where a hinge would be. So that will now act as a hinge as we open our door. Okay. Save our map, and let's give it a run. All right, we got 3 doors in our scene. Our prop rotating door with our different skin. And you'll notice within Hammer, the doorknob or the handle is not applied. It's actually applied as a prop object, a dynamic prop, inside of Hammer. And that's when you can choose which kind of device you want, a handle or a knob or etc. inside the object properties. So we come up to it, we can run into it, can't go through it. Hit E, the use key. Oh, you see the handle move, the dynamic prop of the handle move, and now we can pass in there. And the door is going to remain open until I close it. Open, close, with the use key. Now we have our sliding door, which we didn't assign a texture other than this standard door texture. But as we walk up to this door, it should slide from right to left. Oop, there it goes. Got to get right up to it. You see how it kind of slid over, and it slides back automatically. We can't use the use key here. It's just as soon as we walk up to it that it's going to open. Doesn't work with the use. Right through. From the other side. Right through. So, pretty handy. You just have to give it a door-like texture. Cool sliding effect. We also have our rotating brush-based function entity door. Which is going to work really similar to this guy, but it lacks the dynamic handle. It lacks all the skins. This first guy you're going to use 95% of the time for doors, but I wanted to show you how you can create basically a similar door by walking up to it, having it move along that hinge point that we got there. Walk through. From the other side, it's going to push me here. There it goes. Goes out. Kind of gave me a little push, but it moved the right direction. So, there's 3 doors. Let's go ahead and create some button keypads, and using inputs, outputs, and maybe a trigger, we'll explore alternate ways to open, unlock, lock, blow up, whatever, your doors and other objects. Okay, let's quit, exit from the command console, developer console.